So, Elon Musk, the name alone brings up a lot, right? You've seen the headlines, you've definitely seen the tweets. But what if we could just push all that noise aside for a moment? What do actual academic studies and leadership frameworks tell us about how this guy really operates? Well, that's what we're going to do. Let's break it down.
So here's the big question, isn't it? Is he this visionary genius, pushing humanity forward? Or is he a super controversial figure with a problematic approach? Now, the easy answer is it's a bit of both. But that doesn't really tell us anything, does it? The truth and what the research shows is way more complex. So, our goal today, it's not about picking a side. It's about actually understanding the mechanics of his leadership. We're going to use a clear, evidence-based framework to see what's really going on.
Okay, here's the plan. We'll start with the Musk enigma. Then we'll get into his hybrid leadership style. After that, we'll check out some real-world case studies, Tesla and SpaceX. We'll also look at the flip side, what some call the price of genius, the controversies. And to finish up, we'll pull out some key lessons from his playbook.
All right, section 1, the Musk enigma. Let's just start with this core question. How does one person go from being a scrappy startup founder to leading like several of the world's most ambitious and incredibly complex companies all at the same time? I mean, just look at this timeline for a second. He found SpaceX back in 2002. Fast forward to 2022, and he's buying Twitter for, $44 billion? The scale is it's staggering. And you can see the shift, right? This isn't just about starting cool companies anymore. Now it's about managing unbelievable complexity, dealing with board scrutiny, and leading these massive, mature global organizations. That is a completely different ballgame.
So, what kind of leadership does that actually take? Well, that brings us right to our next section, his hybrid style. And what's really fascinating here is that when academics look at him, they can't just stick him in one neat little box. Nope. Instead, his style is this really powerful and, sometimes volatile mix of a few classic leadership theories.
Okay, first up, there's something called transformational leadership. And this is all about the big, bold, almost crazy vision. I mean, think about Tesla's mission statement, to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. You see? That's not, let's sell a bunch of cars. It's this huge grand narrative that makes people feel like they're a part of something that can change the world. It inspires them to do what seems impossible. Then you've got this layer of charismatic leadership. It's pretty obvious, right? His bold personality, that massive media presence, he uses all of it like a tool. It's how he attracts an army of followers, tons of investment capital, and some of the best talent on the planet. His personal brand and his company brands, they're basically one and the same. And the third piece of this puzzle, it's what experts call situational leadership. This one's all about being adaptable. Remember Tesla's infamous production hell? He was literally sleeping on the factory floor, getting deep into the nitty-gritty. But then, in the next moment, he can zoom all the way out to this high-level strategic view. He just changes his style depending on what the crisis of the hour demands. So you put all three of those together, and this is where it gets really interesting, because they all have trade-offs. That huge transformational vision, it can lead to massive burnout. That charismatic personality, it can make the company way too dependent on just one guy. And that intense, situational, all-hands-on-deck approach, well, it can really clash with stakeholders. It's like every single strength has a built-in shadow side. Okay, so that's all the theory, but what happens when the rubber meets the road? How does this hybrid style actually hold up under insane pressure? Let's dive into a couple of case studies to see it in action. First up, Tesla. And that mission statement, it's the perfect example of that transformational leadership we were just talking about. It's not just a business goal, right? It's framed as a goal for all of society. So the goal for the Model 3 was just enormous. They had to go from this niche luxury car maker to a true mass market player. The problem? The challenge was purely operational. How do you scale manufacturing that fast? It was an unprecedented challenge, and it led directly to that crisis they called production hell. And what happened? Well, despite all the chaos, that hands-on, sleeping on the floor, situational leadership, it worked. They delivered around 250,000 Model 3s in 2018 alone. That was the moment everyone realized, whoa, this mass market vision might actually become a reality. Okay, but if you thought Tesla's mission was big, let's talk about SpaceX. The vision here is, well, it's literally out of this world. to make life multiplanetary. Now, before you can get to Mars, you've got a huge problem to solve right here on Earth: money. How do you make space travel affordable? The answer was rocket reusability. But the challenge wasn't just technical, it was cultural. He had to take that fail fast, learn fast Silicon Valley mindset and inject it into the super slow, super cautious aerospace industry. And, well, we all know how that turned out. It worked.
But this kind of insane intensity and disruption, it doesn't come for free. It comes at a cost. Which brings us to Section 4, the price of genius. Let's take an honest look at the documented criticisms.
This quote from Musk himself pretty much says it all, doesn't it? You will work your ass off. The expectation isn't just dedication, it's a completely all-consuming level of commitment. And this is what that looks like in practice, according to the research. That high-intensity culture, it leads to widespread employee burnout. There have been serious documented concerns about labor practices and worker safety. We've all seen how his, let's call them volatile, tweets have caused huge market swings and regulatory headaches. And when you have that much power concentrated in one person, the founder CEO, it creates massive risks for the company's governance.
And nowhere was this clearer than with the acquisition of X, the platform formerly known as Twitter. Suddenly, all these issues were front and center. He was facing a whole new world of challenges, things like platform governance and content moderation, that are way outside his usual wheelhouse of engineering. And the leadership style he brought to that situation, well, it generated a firestorm of controversy. Okay, so taking all of that in, the good and the bad, what are the actual lessons here? For this last section, let's distill everything down into a simple SWOT analysis that any leader really can learn from. All right, let's look at the internal factors first. The strengths are pretty obvious, right? That visionary leadership, an amazing culture of innovation, and this magnetic pull that attracts the best people and tons of money. But look closely at the weaknesses. They're the direct flip side of those strengths. You get over-dependence on the founder, you get these incredibly risky, high-pressure timelines, and you get a workload that just burns people out. Now for the external factors. The opportunities are huge, no doubt. The growth in EVs, commercial space, AI, it's all there. But the threats are just as big. There's constant regulatory scrutiny breathing down his neck, huge reputational risk tied directly to his public persona, and of course, just ferocious competition from both the old guard and new players. So let's boil it all down. What can we actually walk away with? First, you just can't deny the power of a big, bold vision. It really works. Second, you have to foster innovation like crazy. But, and this is a big but, you have to balance that with practices that respect your people. Third, adaptability is key. You've got to match your leadership style to the context. And finally, and this might be the biggest lesson of all from his story, you absolutely have to maintain good governance and ethical discipline, especially as your influence and power grow. And all of this leaves us with one final and I think really important question. Looking at the case of Elon Musk kind of forces us all to ask, what is the right balance? How can any leader push the boundaries of what's possible without completely shattering the foundations of sustainable ethical governance? That right there, that's the central tension. And maybe it's the ultimate leadership challenge for anyone.